Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Kris Lea, and I'm an organizational psychologist, which means that I study how people work together in the organizations that they work in.
And hi, I'm Leann Ferry, and I'm an executive leadership coach, which means I work with individual leaders to navigate challenges and achieve goals in their organizations.
So welcome to our series, everybody. Today, we'd like for you to get to know us a little bit and then invite you to visit us again and again for our upcoming podcast series.
So Kris, I think it'd be helpful for everyone if you explained a little bit about what you actually do.
Yes, thank you. So at a high level, I help my client organizations to be more efficient, productive, and happier places to be. And the way I start out doing that is with some diagnostic work, and then I help them to develop some custom solutions to help them to reach their future state, whatever that might be. So that's really high level. But Leann, tell us a little bit more about what you do as an executive coach.
Yeah, sure. So as an executive leadership coach, I work to help leaders become more self-aware, more resilient, and more courageous in all that they do. And I do that by providing sessions that are confidential, safe, and a non-judgmental space that allows leaders to really sort of take that pause and reflect on their best path forward. And the coaching really facilitates their clarity and getting into action around the topics that are most important to them in their work and in their lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so important.
Yeah, it really is. So could talk about that all day, but Kris, can you give an example of the kinds of problems or an example of the kind of problem that you help solve with your clients?
So let's start with saying that there is no perfect organization. I haven't found one yet, but I have found a lot of organizations with really fantastic leaders that care so much about their organizations that they want their organizations to be really healthy places to be. And that's so important. So leadership is really critical here. But since every organization has one problem or another, we generally call those organizational pain points. And so I help to understand what those pain points might be. And one of the things that is really common is just a general sense of employee disengagement or malaise, let's call it, employee disengagement. And that is happening across many, many organizations. And in fact, the Gallup Research Institute talks about over 75% of employees, which this number, this stat includes managers at all levels also, that they are disengaged somehow. And this is really relevant for organizations because disengaged employees and managers really don't contribute to their fullest and best strength. And part of the reason for that is that there is, in some organizations, mistrust that runs deep and makes it difficult for open and honest conversations to happen and for people to be able to work together in a much more collaborative way. So lack of trust is fundamentally at play much of the time. And what I see about a common denominator for the two of us is that coaching conversations really are fundamentally about building trust. Coaching conversations can happen peer-to-peer. They can happen from supervisor to staff member. They can happen in any direction inside of the organization, because a coaching conversation in organizational terms really is about open dialogue and inquiry, which is really meant to deepen the relationship. And I really think that is very important for organizations to operationalize.
Thank you for explaining that, Kris. And that example is really relevant to the kinds of clients and leaders that I work with also. I'll give you two examples of the kinds of problems I work on with clients. One of them speaks directly to what you're talking about. There is distrust between the leader I'm working with and higher level leaders. And so often that conversation in the coaching session, in the private space with me, is around how to approach those leaders, how to create better relationships with those leaders, how to communicate better with those leaders. But it's coming from the leader that's downstream, right? Trying to create the better relationship going up. So it's really interesting. So in the session, we talk about, courageous conversation, communication skills, such like that, sort of deepen their awareness of what's actually going on. Is it something they're doing? Is it something they need to shift? Is it some new, communication technique they need to try? So those conversations happen a lot in my sessions. I wanted to give another example of another kind of problem that I often work on with clients. And that's the one where the client, the leader actually has trust with their team or believes that they do. They're very well liked. Their team members come to them about anything, everything. They have really good relationships. But the leader struggles with direct communication, with giving direct feedback to their team members. They are worried that if they do that, it's going to break the trust. So these are leaders with really good relationship building skills. They just have this fear and this belief deep down that if they give direct feedback, that it will break that trust, that it will break those relationships. So I do work on those kinds of topics a lot, and it ends up often at least being one component of what are they believing about this? What are they believing about what it means if you're direct? And so then we dig into that and we find out what's getting in the way of them really showing up, being and becoming the kinds of leaders that they really want to be.
So important, Leann, so important. So we need to, as supervisors and leaders, we need to be able to have conversations in which we give feedback without damaging the relationship. Mm-hmm. Really important. Yeah. You and I both work for very similar purposes, which is to create excellent leaders and healthy organizations for our clients. Mm-hmm. And we have so much to talk about, but for today, we're going to wrap up. But for everybody out there, I want you to know that we'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. And if you'd like to get a hold of us, I could be reached at krisleaconsulting.com.
And I can be reached at leannferry.com. It would be great to hear from you.
Yeah. And thanks so much for spending time with us today. And we can't wait for the next video podcast. So see you next time
at Courageous Conversations. Bye-bye.